One of the questions we get asked the very most is, do you have a therapist you can recommend for me? And while we wish that we knew of therapists in every single place, in every single part of the country, we don't. So what do we tell them instead, Mel?
We say check out BetterHelp because it's online, it's at a reasonable price, and you can be matched with a therapist within 24 hours. I've also used them, and they have been great. And if you don't like your therapist, guess what? Click, and get a new one.
Absolutely. It's so hard when you have an in-person therapist, if you're not clicking with them, to cut them off and get a new one. So that's not an issue with BetterHelp. So we always tell people to try BetterHelp. And if you use our promo code, which is
trybetterhelp.com/WWDN,
you get 10% off your first month.
Go ahead and try it out. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN. And you know what? I'm a big fan of doing therapy where you don't have to wear pants, but nobody knows about it.
Are you wearing pants right now, Mel?
I'll see you later. Bye. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
I'm excited today, Mel, because this is an old friend. I mean, as old as friends can be in our position because, we haven't been widows all the time, but we know this person a little bit, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Friend of the podcast, I would say, but friends of us first.
Yeah, both.
But not in like pre-widow life.
Right. That's why it's like, do we have any old friends? No, we only have 5-year-old friends, really, because that's when we started the podcast. Don't you think?
Yeah. We're in kindergarten.
Oh, that's actually, I kind of love that idea. Do you want to tell us who you are, old-ish friend?
Oldish friend. Hi, I'm Judy. I live in Syracuse. I'm 65 years old. So when you said an old friend, I thought, ooh, you're getting
not that kind.
Right away.
Well, we were just talking about bathroom breaks, and
yeah, right, we were.
But I have to take a lot of them, so I don't think that has to do with age. But now you're in Syracuse, New York, correct?
I'm in Syracuse, New York, pretty close to Canada. It's about an hour away. I became a widow 5 years ago. My husband, John Burdick, he died from an aggressive kidney cancer in 2020, on July 4th, 2020.
Not very patriotic of him.
Well, the thing is now we always have a little celebration and we say the fireworks are all for. So we've changed the day.
Or Independence Day from his body.
That would actually be the most epic day to die, because then every year you could be like, the fireworks are
That's exactly
the tears of the people, or the
right.
uprising. I don't know.
Yeah, with John, it would be uprising, I think. So I discovered your podcast probably 9 months, a year later, and I had a lot of catching up to do. I wanted to be with you at the point you were current. So I just remember listening to the podcast over and over and over again until I caught up, and now I'm a regular.
Now you're all caught up for sure.
It's funny though, because I went on vacation and I just realized recently that I had missed like 3 weeks of podcasts. I assumed, I wasn't home, so it didn't go on. So I have some catching up to do for the weeks that I was away.
That makes me feel better because every once in a while we have a week where we have to skip. So it makes me feel good that you had to catch up on some things instead of or waiting with bated breath.
That's how my first boyfriend was in high school. It was summer and I just didn't call him. And he was like, "What's the problem?" And I was like, "It's summer. Like, do I have to talk to you in the summer?" Apparently I wasn't doing it right.
Isn't that how you broke up? Because you're like, "Oh, we're over."
Yeah, I was like, "I'll see you in the fall." And he didn't think that was
that's not how boyfriends work, Anita.
Apparently not. I don't know.
You had that boyfriend and then you had Jason, right? And then that's
No,
it.
I had one more.
What?
Yeah.
Who?
Heber.
I didn't know that.
Heber. He had red hair. My mom wanted me to marry him, so she had redheaded grandkids. So all my kids are a disappointment to her. So sorry, Mom.
Heber. That is definitely a Utah name for sure. Judy,
absolutely.
Was John your first or second boyfriend?
No.
All right.
There were a few.
Judy lives in not Utah.
Not Utah. No, I used to live, New York is a big state. I live in Syracuse, but I used to live on Long Island originally, and then in Manhattan, and then in Brooklyn, and then in New Jersey. So I've lived all around. And I met John. I was actually dating someone else at the time. It was one of those relationships where it wasn't going to be forever. And can I tell you this story?
I mean, why are you on the podcast if not to tell your story, Judy?
Yeah, so I had a friend who was in graduate school at the time, and she had a friend who was John, and he was over at her house looking at pictures, and he said, "Who's that?" And she said, "That's my friend Judy. I think you should meet her." And so I thought, okay, it was a blind date. I had been on a few blind dates, but this was somebody who my best friend knew. And as a little background to that best friend story, her father and my father were best friends, and he introduced my parents.
Whoa.
This is like entanglement. This is a lot of
It really is entangled.
yes.
I went on this date with him, and we immediately knew this was the right thing for both of us. He's a cultural anthropologist. I didn't give that as background, and he does his work in Brazil. So he traveled a lot always, and I'll talk a little bit more about him maybe later. But he was heading off to Brazil, and in the summertime, and we met in January, and he had been to my house a few times, and my parents had told them of their wedding story, which was they were introduced by Marcia's father at a wedding, and the first time he had called to ask my mother out, she said, "I'm washing my hair, I can't." But he was persistent, and they ended up dating. And within 3 months, my dad asked my mom to get married, and she said yes. My grandmother, I never met my grandmother. She was very sick. She died at the age of 50, and he wanted, if they were going to get married anyway, they might as well do it quickly so that she could be there. The very important part was that she didn't say yes right away. And he asked her again, she didn't say yes. And then they went to a Chinese restaurant in Queens, and she got a fortune cookie that said, "He loves you, he needs you, what more do you want?" So then that's when she said yes. And then they got married within a year. So that's background to my story. So I meet John through my best friend whose father introduced my parents. And we started dating, and that was January. And April 11th, which was his birthday, he asked me, "How do you see yourself in the backwoods of Brazil?" And I was like, "I'm a New York City girl." I was, "Oh, that could be interesting. That could be fun." But I wasn't thinking like right away. And later that day, he asked me if I wanted to get married. And I said, "No, we just met in January, and it's only April." May 11th, he asked me again, 11 being important because he was born April 11th. I was born February 11th. So we were going with the 11th. And so I said no. And then June 11th, we went out for dinner, and we went to a Chinese restaurant on the Upper East Side in New York City. And it was a little restaurant, and the fortune cookie comes, and well, first of all, there were two on the table. They both unwrapped, which was curious to me. But I opened mine, and it says, "He loves you, he needs you, what more do you want?" And I was like,
What?
you can't get that. Yeah, no, that's
He's
what
so
it
sneaky.
said.
He did it, didn't he?
Well, I said, "Did you do this?" And he said, "No, me? No, I didn't do this." But then I'm looking at the fortune cookie, and it says, "He loves you, comma, he needs you, semicolon, what more do you want? Question mark." And I'm like, not your typical fortune cookie.
That's an academic for you.
Yeah.
Right. So I grabbed the other one. I opened the other one. The other one said the exact same thing. So with the semicolon and all that. So I knew he had planned it. He had been listening because by coming to my house, my parents had told him the story about the fortune cookie. It was their signature story. And so he replicated it. I found out later when I was in the shower one day, he had taken out the fortune with a toothpick with glue on the end.
Oh, my heavens.
He typed up two new ones, and he scrunched them back in. He had gone to the Chinese restaurant the day before and gotten the fortune cookies, paid the guy $20 and said, "I'm going to come tomorrow with a woman, and you have to hand me these fortune cookies. Here's $20. And later he told me that the guy was behind him the whole time. It was 1986. So it was like punk rocker. He had, this straight punk rock hair, and he was in the back going like this. People can't see me, but I'm raising my thumbs and making these cheery sounds like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I said yes. And then he left for Brazil for 3 months.
Rude.
Yeah.
I love like surprises like that. I love it when people go to great length to do silly things like that. It's not silly, but I just love when there's like all these mechanics that need to happen. Like I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, it would be
kind of fun.
really awful if someone then didn't say yes, but I guess he knew I was like on the verge of saying yes.
Or what if
Um,
they brought the wrong fortune cookies and it was like, your life will be full of intrigue or whatever. And he's like, ah.
yeah, my mother-in-law later told me she once got one that said, he loves you as much as he can, but he cannot love you very much.
Oh,
Yeah, you're lucky you didn't get that one.
Maybe my father swears he did not plant that fortune cookie, just so you know. There is one out there that said, he loves you, he needs you, what more do you want? And I do not think my dad had the wherewithal to have done what John did
The
to.
toothpick and the glue and all that.
Yeah, no, I believe my mother really got that fortune cookie. John just had to replicate the whole thing.
So why Brazil and why did he do that? Why was he so interested in
In
the
Brazil.
Yeah.
He was an anthropologist, a cultural anthropologist, and he didn't start out that way. He started out as getting a doctorate in history and left. He actually left Yale University to go to the City University of New York, which I think stressed his parents out a lot to go study anthropology. But he was not an in the archives kind of guy. He wanted to talk to people. He liked to listen to people. And he was really interested in race, religion, politics, and social movements in general. So his life kind of bridged academia and activism. Even when he was back in Syracuse, he was involved in grassroots movements for, peace and justice. And he was that kind of a guy. So history would have been a mismatch. He loved being out there. I should send you a video I just received from his colleague in Brazil where he was dancing, learning one of the dances to some type of Brazilian music. And he's just full of life and he loved going to Brazil. I mean, it was not easy for us as a young couple with him leaving so often and for so long. I mean, it was often a month to 3 months that he could be gone. And that was really hard. And I know people on the podcast have sometimes said, oh, yeah, people say, my husband travels. I understand. And it's not like you can't understand. But I have to say, back in the 90s, there wasn't cell phones and stuff like that. So when I was alone with two kids and a dog, and he was gone for such a long period of time, at time, and sometimes what he was doing could be scary. Was some danger involved with where he was doing his research and stuff. I worried about this and I thought, oh my God, if he doesn't come home, this is what it's going to be like. And I did not like it. I mean, it was not fun, but it was a taste of what life was like without somebody helping in the day to day. But it wasn't, it was not easy on a marriage. I'll confess that part. He worked all the time. His students were always saying that he didn't sleep because he would send emails at 4 in the morning or 6 in the morning or 2 in the morning. And that was actually true. He worked all the time. It was like his number one thing. I mean, he has 5 books, one on the Progressive Catholic Church, one's called Blessed Anastasia, one called The Color of Sound, and it's about race and music. So he met all these, I think they were religious rap groups. He did a lot of work.
I kind of am picturing him as Indiana Jones, even though I know archaeologists and anthropologists are not the same thing. But that's what I want to have in my head, like him being in the jungle and yeah.
He wasn't in the jungle, but he was more of an urban Indiana Jones. After we got married, and then both of us went to Brazil for a year as newlyweds, which was really challenging.
yeah. I want to know what that was like.
Yeah, we were in a really small town. We didn't have a telephone. We didn't, we had electric hot water. So when you took a shower, it could zap you. And
Might electrocute you.
there were no Americans in town. We were a novelty. To walk from one end of town to the other, it took us over an hour because everybody stopped us to talk. I learned to speak Portuguese pretty quickly because nobody spoke English. But he really wanted to make sure it was a productive year for me. And at the time, I'm a lawyer. Well, I'm a retired lawyer now, but before I worked in occupational safety and health for labor unions, and he managed to find people and set up an internship with me in the public health school in Rio. So I was riding back and forth on these buses 45 minutes each way every day to go do this, just so I had some life outside of the town. But I made some really good friends there.
Judy, I can't remember if I've ever mentioned this on the podcast, but my dad lived in Brazil in the 60s for a couple years.
He did?
Yeah.
And so did Jason.
Yeah.
My favorite story ever, and I'm wondering if you witnessed this or if it happened. My dad was playing basketball with some guys and was wearing short shorts, or just shorts in general. And he comes out at that night after they were playing basketball and he gets arrested. And it turns out that during that time, wherever he was in Rio and some other places, that it was illegal for white men to wear shorts after 6 p.m.
What?
Oh my goodness. No, that was not the situation for us. It was so hot there. You wore as little as you could during the summer. I mean, it was hot. I didn't know, but it was a different time, and the whole political life was different. When we got there, it was no longer a military dictatorship. I don't know what was going on when.
I think they just made that up, Mel. They just wanted to harass
They're
him.
like, Jim Shore, we do not like your legs. Cover those things up. Go to jail.
Cover up
Put
those
on some
gams.
pants.
That's well, I wish I could ask John, but I can't.
Oh, that was funny.
That happens a lot. Like, I wish I could ask John.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were there for a whole year together, where, the first question that I got from everybody was, "You don't have children? You don't like children?" That was, it was.
That went from 0 to 60.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was because we had been married a year and we didn't have any children. I didn't have my son for another 5 years, but it was a great experience. Although I can say I wanted to leave the small town. At one point, we started looking for apartments for me in Rio because I wanted to continue my internship, but it turned out to be too expensive, so I just stayed in the town. And we have friends to this day. I just got back from Brazil with my son and daughter-in-law and granddaughter, and I met we reconnected with friends that I've known a really long time.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Jason and I went to Brazil once, and I had so much fun, but I do not think that I would be daring enough to go live there as like a young married couple, not speaking the language, no cell phones, no.
I think my mother thought I was crazy. She never indicated that she thought I was crazy.
Google
but now,
Translate, none of that.
Yeah, no, he tried to teach me a little Portuguese before we left, and I had spoken a little Spanish beforehand, and I thought he was making it up because, like, the name Rio was Rio.
Rio, yeah.
Rio with the O and the H, and I thought, no, you're setting me up for failure here, but no, that was the case. When we first got there, we spent 3 weeks in Rio before we moved out to the little town, and I went to English classes, and I remember him putting me on the bus for the first time alone when I was supposed to do it by myself. And I felt like a kindergartner going off to school. Like, it was terrifying. We went back again in 1996, and I had a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Hey guys, just checking in and want to say, if you are enjoying this podcast
and you want to see it keep going, maybe it's helped you through your widowhood journey and you think that it might help others on their widowhood journey, you can support that cause by joining our Patreon.
Some of the things that you get as a Patreon beneficiary are ad-free episodes, so you don't have to hear ads like this.
You also get exclusive content, and at a certain level, you might also get an exclusive t-shirt you can only get that place.
That is true. It's pretty cool. There are 4 different tiers available, so check it out. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
And as an extra bonus, very often you get your names read by one of my kids, and they will do a terrible job with the pronunciation. And that's like a bonus, I think.
I think it's kind of the best. I would much rather hear somebody butcher my name than say it correctly.
A child butcher it than an adult do it correctly. Yep. So go to patreon.com/WWDN to keep our podcast going and support the widowed cause.
Yes. Thanks, guys. Back to our regularly scheduled program.
You were there at the same time Jason was there then. He was there in 1996. Mm-hmm. Maybe you crossed paths.
Oh my gosh, this is too freaky.
Yeah, we could have.
Yeah.
But then I lived in the city, and it was a little bit more luxurious. He had a good grant that we could pay for an apartment, not $33 a month. So we lived in the city, and he did work in the favelas in the city. So, the shanty towns that go up the hillside, and he would go up every day. And he took us up to meet people one time, I remember, and we had to cancel the first date because there was a round of gunfire the night before because the hills would fight over drugs or whatever they fought over. And so I was nervous bringing the kids up. So we postponed it. And then the next day we went up, and it was quite an experience.
It's so interesting because where we live, if you're rich, you live on the hill, right? But in Brazil, if you're poor, you live on the hill. So I always thought that was interesting.
You got to walk up,
It's flip-flopped, yeah.
But they have the best views up there. It's amazing up there.
You said that you had a son 5 years later, so you stopped having children and decided to start a family.
Yes, and I switched careers. I no longer did public health. I went back to school to become a lawyer. And so I was the pregnant lawyer, the pregnant law student.
What kind of law were you practicing?
Initially, I did criminal appeals, but at the end, the last 23 years, I worked for the state's attorney general office, and I did consumer fraud. It was, it's a fascinating job because, there are a lot of scammers out there.
When my daughter was in 8th grade, we had to go to a career counseling meeting with the counselor at the school. And this was like a year and a half after Jason had died. And they said, what are you thinking about? What do you want to be in life? What are you thinking for school? And I said, we have a plan. And our plan is for her to do some white collar crime and go to prison and get her education in the prison system.
That's a plan. A lot of them do.
And the counselor just looked at me with the biggest eyes. He's like, I have never heard anybody say that. Like, he knew I was joking, but he was like, that is a new one. So can you tell me how to do some light fraud that can have like a minimal sentence, but enough time to get through school? Let's work on that.
There's plenty of white collar fraud going on these days that,
I wonder if they have any like intern programs for fraud. I feel like they do.
I think you can just read the news and there'll be enough data there for you to get your degree.
Just FYI, this child is now in college. Today was her first day of college, and we went the traditional route.
No fraud.
No fraud. No embezzlement.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
back to the story.
So Judy, you're an attorney and your husband is traveling still to Brazil, correct? Like you have.
Yes.
And then you have kids.
Yes, I did get a leave of absence to go back. So my work gave me a leave of absence to go. Both times I went, I got leaves of absence, so I could return to my job.
I'm wondering, you said that John was diagnosed. Did you say it was a quick from diagnosis until he passed away, or was it a long?
What happened is, we always thought I would die first. Frankly, I have an autoimmune condition that's pretty serious. I'll say the name because I want people to hear the name, to have it out there. It's called sarcoidosis. Some people may have heard of it. Some people may not. It's an autoimmune inflammatory disease. And we were finally going to the Cleveland Clinic, and he was never able to go with me to any of the doctor's appointments because he had teaching and traveling. So this time it was our anniversary. So we thought we'll make a Cleveland trip. We'll drive out, go to the Cleveland Clinic. At that time I was having some heart issues. And he went to work, taught his class, came back, and he's like, nah, my stomach is just, something's not right. And I said, listen, why don't we stay and you go to the doctor? No, 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 I really want to go. We've been talking about this going, we're going. So we get in the car and he's just not doing well. He's like this. Called the next day was my appointment because we were staying over. Then we were going to stay over in there because not close. It's about 6 hours, I guess, to Cleveland. And I said, go to the emergency room at the Cleveland Clinic. It's the best emergency room that we could have compared to Syracuse. And no, 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 I want to go. Anyway, we went to the doctor's appointment. Both of us were so worried. We didn't hear a word the doctor said in regard to me. When we got back to the room, we called his doctor, and his doctor said, go right to the emergency room. So we couldn't that day get there. We had to stay over one night on the way home. And then we got home and it was our actual 33rd wedding anniversary. I drove right to the emergency room, dropped him off. When I picked him up later, he had the CAT scan thing and he said it was kidney cancer. So the first thing we thought was, oh, his dad had kidney cancer at 50, had his kidney removed, and he's fine, so he'll be fine. So we were just in that mode. And then I read the report and was stage 4, metastasized to the lungs. It was not a good scene. They gave him a doctor's appointment a month away.
Ah,
a month away. And I thought, we can't do this. And I called our local cancer center and they had a cancellation. They could take him in 2 days, but he was not having any of it. I think he had sort of shut down. He said, if they can wait 30 days, I can wait 30 days if they think it's okay. So we turned down that other appointment. Then it was like an alien was in him. His abdomen just started growing and growing and growing. And we did go to one of the big cancer centers. My son came home, drove us there, and they didn't even touch him. They were looking at his scan from 3 weeks prior when there was a 9 millimeter tumor, but he was already looking 5 months pregnant. And we got a cancer doctor. The 30-day doctor, when we walked in, the doctor was really kind of flippant and he was kind of like, oh, you're going to die.
Oh,
Essentially said that. And we both of us shut down because that wasn't like the first thing we could hear. And we left and we said, we're going to go to get another opinion. And we never talked about death ever again. That was the only time any doctor mentioned it. We never talked about it again. We went to the other cancer center and they immediately started like an immunotherapy treatment. And the chief of the department it was in between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So nobody was around. You can't get sick then. It's just a really bad time to get sick. And so they started this immunotherapy. His abdomen, he looked by this point 9 months pregnant. He was like so big that it was frightening. We were measuring him every day and he just kept getting bigger.
It's like if he were pregnant.
Right. But it happened in 1 month.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like 9 months of pregnancy in 1 month. And when we went in, he was anemic and we went in and we said, that the other cancer center, because they were consulting, said maybe he's bleeding internally. So we mentioned that to the nurse and she immediately called the head of the department who was finally back in town. And he came down, he looked at John and he said, he's got a CAT scan right away because he was the head of the department. And then after the CAT scan, he came in and he said to us, I'll never forget these words, if you do not have surgery today, you will die in 2 days. If you do have surgery, there's only 50% chance you will survive the surgery. This was like the first time that we're dealing with this reality. There was no question. He jumped for the surgery and I said, do you want to call our kids? Do you want to call Ben and Molly? And he was like, no, I'm not saying goodbye on the phone. And then he was taken away. A friend just happened to call. I was very lucky. She just happened to call. I told her what was going on. So she rushed down to the hospital so I wasn't alone. I mean, this was all pre-COVID. It got a lot worse once we were in the pandemic. When the doctor came down, he said he removed a 25-pound tumor.
Oh, it went from 9 millimeters to 25 pounds.
25 pounds in It was December 13th, a little over 4 weeks. That's how what was going on. It was terrifying. But he did survive and he seemed to recover. But the doctor said there were other little tumors in there and he tried to get as many as he could, but he couldn't get them all. And, you know, again, we didn't talk about what that meant ever. John was like focused on plan A, then plan B, then plan C, and we got to plan D and he still was going, and he was on dialysis by that point. Every treatment he took had this could happen side effects, and they all happened to him. So it was just awful. And in the middle of that, COVID happened.
Oh, perfect. Judy, I'm kind of wondering because John was such an academic. Did he kind of approach it from that academic standpoint? Like it was almost like like he was in a study of some sort, like not very emotional, but a little bit more disconnected from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's hard. When I think back during that time, I don't think he was able to deal with the reality of it at all. And I think he was looking to each scientific method because there was chemotherapy, immunotherapy, there was some other kind of therapy. So he was looking at each thing as something that could cure him rather than just extend life. There was, I Googled, I mean, as most people I think would, or most spouses would, to see. And, the average lifespan with this particular type of cancer was eight to 18 months, and 18 was the long end of it. And he was just, the chemotherapy and the immunotherapy just took such a toll on his body that it would have been hard to survive the maximum amount of time because everything else that went wrong, like his other kidney failed and he needed dialysis and, stuff like that.
Anita, I hear we have a store.
Oh, we sure do. We've actually had it for quite a while. It's called the Snarky Grief Shop, and it's where you will find all of our best grief merch. That is, yes, a little snarky. For instance, it's where you will find the official widow card that you can pull and use at your convenience.
You can put it in your wallet, and anytime you need to use it, pull it out, play the widow card.
Yeah, we have glow-in-the-dark stickers. We have shirts that say, "Be nice, my husband is dead." We also have the ones that are not quite as jarring, so that you can wear them out in public and not feel weird. But sometimes you need that shirt.
I wear my "Be nice, my husband is dead" to bed because I'm a little scared to go in public with it. But you've worn it on airplanes before with your kids.
Yeah, every time we go to the airport, I wear that shirt because I'm just like, listen, I got to get all these kids through security. Just be nice to me. Thank you so much. And it's worked for the most part.
Some of the less snarky grief shirts are podcast shirts or Widow Wives Club. We also have Resilient AF, right? Anita, what else we got in there?
Yeah, which we're telling everybody who cares, like Mel's mom, that means American fork. Because she can't know what it really means, guys.
Yeah.
Stickers and mugs and notebooks and just cool stuff that you can use to express your snarky grief. You'll find it by going to our website, shop.widowwedonow.com. There's a lot of W's in there, so just make sure that you've counted them and there's the right number.
We will link to that in the show notes, and it's also in our app, which you can get from the App Store. Can people get it from our regular website too?
Yes, if you go to widowwedonow.com, there's a link for the shop in there too.
Great. If you'd like to show your snark or have something a little more subtle, go ahead and check that out. Again, that's
shop.widowwedonow.com. Did he ever go on hospice? Was there ever a time when finally it was like, I am going to die, or never?
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's so interesting.
So what happened, in mid-March, my daughter had to move home. She sublet her apartment in New York and came back, which was the only blessing of COVID was that I had my adult daughter living with me, and we went through this together. We were all terrified. Remember, we were just terrified. I was terrified. He would get COVID. I was terrified. My lungs are bad. I have a condition. I'm at high risk. I I was afraid I would get COVID and I would die before him, and then my kids would have no parent. I mean, it was a mess, and we were afraid to go food shopping, wiping down shopping bags and juice cartons and stuff. But she was home for that part, so that was good. We had each other as support. When it was near the end, he just had to be moved back into the hospital. So there was never hospice.
And it was in 2020, right? So were you able to even visit him when he was moved back to the hospital?
Well, by that point in 2020, I wasn't able. He had been in the hospital several times during that period where we could not visit him at all. I couldn't even go into the emergency room with him. I had to drop him off. But the last time there had been like a little break so that one person could go in, but if that person left, they couldn't come back.
It's like a parking garage. No reentry.
With the spikes for the tires.
Yeah.
I couldn't go home and let my daughter go. So she couldn't go at all. When was taken by ambulance to the hospital the last time, but at that point I was going, it wasn't very long, maybe a week. I was going every day. She didn't go. But I came in one day and the dialysis person was packing up, and he had said he didn't want dialysis, which I knew would be the end. But the hardest part, and I wonder how many people have had this experience, which the thing that really, really pissed me off, while I was going in the hospital, he did not have a DNR signed. And he was there in the bed, and I knew he was able to hear what was going on. And they were telling me things like, you can sign this for him. He's not competent anymore. It's in his best interest. And they were forcing me to sign it. And I didn't want to do that because he didn't want that. He was still wanting everything to take place to live. But when he sent the dialysis guy away, I did go to him and say, John, you understand that you will die within 2 days without dialysis. And he indicated he understood. And then he said to me, you can sign the DNR. So he could say those words. He was listening. He knew that. And it really annoyed me that they didn't respect him as, a being with wishes because he was in that condition. But he did tell me to sign it, and I signed it. Mm-hmm. And then the next morning, I knew that there's not much time afterwards. But the dialysis technician did say that it's a peaceful way when your dialysis is removed. It's not painful or anything. So the next morning, we weren't allowed to go until 2:00. And it was like 2 to 6 were the visiting hours. And I called them and I said, I'm coming this morning and I'm bringing my daughter. And that was like, not something that could happen under the rules. But they said, okay, they let us go. And we got there at 11. Visiting hours weren't supposed to be until 2. And he died an hour and 15 minutes after we got there. He might have waited until 2:00, but if he couldn't have waited, but we were there, and we were able to sit with him and be with him at that moment.
So you've been a widow for 5 years now, right?
Yeah, just 5.
Question for you.
What is that?
I love a good talk about the effects of stress because of grief and widowhood. You're already immunocompromised and you're going through the major life event of losing a spouse. How have you held up with your current condition?
Fortunately, my current condition has been under medicated control. I'm technically in remission. I do have bouts of where I feel really crappy, and I don't know what causes that, but it's an inflammatory disease, so it could be stress, food, weather. But I've been in the hospital twice though since, because my appendix ruptured. And then after that, that caused a hernia. So like 9 months later, I was in the hospital again having a hernia repaired.
Oh my
And it
goodness.
really, those times were the hardest when you're a widow and you have to go to the hospital and,
Yeah.
you have to make arrangements for your dog.
Because your daughter probably wasn't with you at the time, right? Because this was after COVID.
Right. She was gone. Both of those surgeries, I was fortunate. My son and my daughter-in-law, they moved to Syracuse during that period of time, so they were there.
Oh, good.
But one of the things that I wanted to tell you guys, because it was not only I don't think that I had the energy to even be sick, because after John's death, there was just a string of deaths in the family. It just didn't stop. He died in July, and how we got through those early months were, so very excited about the birth of my grandchild. And John really wanted to be a grandfather, really, really wanted to be a grandfather. And I felt so sad that he wasn't going to meet our grandchild. And then she was born, and they named her Elwyn John Burdick McCall. So they put his full name in between her first and last name.
Aww.
And she was born March 3rd. And my son called, and she was in the NICU. And hearing his voice, oh my God. And that was just the most heartbreaking thing, that she was really, really not doing well. And she passed away 6 days later. It was COVID, so I never met her, never got to hold her. They lived in Nevada. That was really, really hard. I now have another granddaughter. Her sister was born in 2022 while they lived in Syracuse. So she's a huge light for my family. So she's 3 now. But then after that, my brother died from suddenly, like he had pancreatic cancer and passed in November it was 2022. It was right before that Camp Widow that I went to, where I met you guys in the elevator. And then after that, my father-in-law died, and then my mother-in-law died. And then my dog, who saw me through the last 4 years of John's research project, we spent a lot of time together, and then sort of hung on, I think, until she thought I could handle it. And then she died. So it was a long haul of I hope it's done.
Yeah, knock on wood like 15 times.
I just knocked on wood.
Okay, good.
Talk to us, Judy, about being widowed and having your kids gone out of the house too. How did you keep yourself busy and not go crazy and just like live?
It was really hard when both of them were gone. Like when Molly left, Ben and Kara were moving to Syracuse. So I had, I just shifted focus from one child to another being here. When they both left, which was just a year ago, I mean, that was really hard. For the first time, I felt super alone. Like if I had to go to the hospital now, who would take me? If I needed something, if I got sick, or I felt really, really alone. But what I decided to do in retirement, I retired in 2 years ago, was to become really strong. So I go to the gym, and I do reformer Pilates, and I have a strength trainer. I just decided to focus on being strong. And that is like the focus of my day. So I get out of the house every day to do those things. In the summertime, then I go out and I do gardening in the back, which I really, really like. Got this dog, so he would walk with me, and he's afraid of the outside. He's like really agoraphobic. He will not walk.
Judy, do you have a weighted vest?
I put him in a backpack, and I've been carrying him.
That's better than a weighted vest.
That's the latest
22
craze.
pounds on my back.
Okay, question about the weighted vest craze. Like, that feels like it would hurt your neck.
Well, it's not easy walking with 22-pound of dog.
Yeah.
So
It's a wiggly vest
I've
too.
heard there's like weighted hip weights too.
Packs.
Belts, a
It's
weighted
supposed to be
belt.
really good for osteopenia. Like it's supposed to
Yeah,
like press
that's
your bones together.
and you need it on your back because that's part of the bones that get osteopenia.
Okay, so what's the difference between being 15 pounds overweight and having a 15-pound vest? Isn't it the same
I've
That's a
had
good
thing?
these thoughts
question.
actually. I've had
That's a
this thought.
good
I've
question.
Googled it before.
Thank
It's
you.
much easier to just eat ice cream every day.
Hmm
Well, I can't do yeah, but
I mean, if it solves osteoporosis, I will eat the ice
yeah.
cream. I
And,
mean,
and Judy, well, I know Anita loves to tell people that they need to strength train because it's true that it helps with all sorts of things, from blood sugar to prevention and all sorts of things.
And it makes you feel good. It's good for your
yeah.
Yeah.
psyche.
What are some of your favorite things that maybe some widows who are thinking about it but aren't sure how to start? Like what would be a good like entry point for them?
For
For some
exercise,
maybe for some strength training.
for strength. Well, I go to the YMCA and I just have 3 times a month somebody to guide me, and then what I can do on my own when she's not there, I now know what to do. And I sometimes don't, because our YMCA has this really wonderful electronic weight program it's called the e-gym, and the machines adjust to your weight and your strength, and it's really cool, and everybody moves along at the same thing. So that's what I do every day,
Oh, that's cool.
and then I do some aerobic stuff.
So maybe for people that don't have that e-gym thing, they could find a trainer or just sign up at a gym. Like I
Yeah,
know.
and there's this thing called reformer Pilates, which is what I do. It's Pilates, but not on a mat. It's on a machine, and it helps with your positioning.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is? Have
Yeah.
Oh
you?
yeah, I know
Yeah.
what it is.
But
Yeah.
tell the audience because they might not.
It's got like springs. It kind of looks like a torture
It
device,
looks like
but
a torture device, but it fits your body. And when you do certain weight kind of stuff, it holds you, you're in the right position. And then there's someone who goes around when you're in the wrong position that says, lift your butt or look straight or raise your head. So someone's guiding you. And I love that class. And I do that a couple of times a week. I mean, the problem is all those things cost money. And I think
yeah.
if people can join a YMCA and they have all these classes, you could do a floor Pilates class, you could do anything, any other kind of
Or
thing.
YouTube or something.
Yeah.
You guys, everybody listening, all of us sit so much and we don't walk a lot like maybe people did 50 years ago. So pay attention to your body. It's like I'm 43, and if I don't do strength training 3 days a week, then my back kind of starts collapsing, which isn't helpful for anything.
At 65, as my shoulders start going forward. So it's really important to hold it back.
Have you found community in widowhood, or what is your social circle like?
I know a lot of widows, sadly. And And, at my age, I guess there's more happen that aren't considered, so young anymore. But um, I have several good friends who are widows, and it is nice to be with them because we sort of just understand each other and, like to talk about our deceased spouses. Um, and a good friend of mine is a widower, and he lives in my neighborhood. There's a lot of widows. I don't know what what that's about. When I see a post on Facebook that, someone I knew a long time ago's spouse died, I'll always reach out now. I just always send a personal message because I think one of the things that got me through initially was John had a lot of students and he touched a lot of students' lives. Um, and they all wrote the most beautiful things and sent them to me via email. On my list is to go find all these and print them out and have them in like a book. I appreciated the fact that in COVID, I mean, I didn't have to do anything right away. I didn't have to see anybody when I really didn't feel like seeing anybody. We didn't have his memorial until 15 months later. It was the following year that we had his memorial. I didn't have people coming to the house, it was summertime, so some people visited in the backyard and we did our safe distance thing out there, but there was no pressure to rush through anything. And I think that made it less stressful. The pressure was eased. You didn't have to have a funeral within a week. You didn't have to, it was hard enough. I spent the time, I actually started a scholarship fund for graduate students, and I went through all of it, anybody I could find, sending emails, and people donated money, and we got enough for 6 years of scholarships.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so interesting to hear how COVID was so injurious to so many in ways that like you wouldn't anticipate or expect, like just being at the hospital with people or death traditions. But on the flip side, it also allowed us to really slow down and be with our family. Like your daughter was there with you and just like throw away some of the things that are traditions that we don't want, So it's kind of interesting how it was two sides of the spectrum.
And I could go back to work, and I wanted to go back to work.
Yeah.
Within 2 weeks I was working because
On a computer somewhere.
we were in our, I could be in my pajama bottoms and still be at work, and it made life easier. I didn't have to get up and get myself put together. I could just go down and get coffee and then start working, or work at different times to get stuff done. But one of the things I wanted to tell you, this is probably the part that people will think I've lost my mind a little bit. I'm not religious. I've never been religious, but I was always curious about what would happen when somebody died. And I remember talking about it with John many times. It came up, and he would always say, "No, it's nothing. It's just like before you were born." That was his standard response. No consciousness, no existence, just like before you were born. And I kind of wish I could talk to him about that now, because what if we just don't remember what it was like before we were born? And I've had I think you had an episode once where I contributed a couple of stories about the stuff that's
Yeah.
happened. Um, but I think the weirdest of them, and because it happened to me, I know that this actually happened. It'd be different, I suppose, for all the listeners saying, "Oh, yeah, she's really looking for stuff where nothing exists." But um, I was curious. So I did consult with a medium on the phone. And she had said, look for pennies, particularly in your bedroom. And John says he'll, put them under pillows or under beds or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, right. This was the early part of my story. And it was interesting that she had said pennies, because John loved the movie Ghost. And like 3 days before he went to the hospital and later died, he wanted to rewatch that movie. And I don't know, like, was he studying or what the heck? But it was funny that she had said pennies, but then like I forgot about it. I pennies, I don't carry change. I don't ever use change anymore. I use my credit card. And like a week later, or 2 weeks later, I look on my bedstand and there's a penny there. And I'm like, whoa, I live here alone. I don't empty my pockets. There's no pennies. So somebody comes in to clean my house every 2 weeks. So it's like 11 o'clock and I'm texting her, "Abby, where did you find this penny?" And she said, "I don't know. I just was sweeping under the bed and there was a penny under there." Like, she comes every 2 weeks. How could a penny get under the bed? So I was like, oh, okay, that's a little weird. So I put the penny on my nightstand, like on the lamp base. And there's now 23 pennies there. But I'm just going to quickly tell you some of the circumstances, because they're really weird. In this room right here, where that file cabinet in his picture is, there used to be bookshelves, but I had this whole room redone and painted. So I had to remove all of his books. And I talk out loud to him all the time. I don't know if that's crazy or not, but it's what I do. And I was really mad. And I was like, "John, I can't believe you left me with this freaking job. These are your books. I have no idea what to do with them. They're now all in this closet right now, and all the other closets in my house. Why? This shouldn't be me. This isn't fair." And I pull out a book and this penny flies out, hits me in the chest like that. And I was like, whoa, okay, so you're here, you're helping. And, it's comforting in a way to think that maybe this penny had something to do with it. That was one of the stories. Another bizarre story was just recently I had to go to Best Buy to get my phone screen repaired. So I'm sitting across from the guy and he's repairing the phone. I had paid because I had a plan. It wasn't much, but I paid with my credit card, $12 and whatever. And we're sitting there and he's doing this, we're chatting, and the cash register is off to the side. And all of a sudden the drawer flies open on its own. And this guy takes a penny out and puts it on top of the cash register. And I was like, why did you put the penny there? Does that keep the drawer from opening? It was just like a weird thing because we were both stunned when we shocked when the door opened. And he said, no, it's the weirdest thing. This drawer opened up and on the screen it said, change owed 1 penny.
Okay, Judy, these are crazy stories. But John, how about at least a dollar bill? Like, could we at least?
I think, I mean, if you were thinking about this as like a thing, it was like I think he knew the pennies would, I don't know. So that was another one. Another one of John's students, who's also from Utah, she came out for a weekend to help me figure out what to do with some of this stuff in the attic, like what I could throw out, what I could save. And I told her the penny story. She's like, wow, you know. And she was leaving early the next morning. And I wasn't going to be up when she left. And when I woke up, there was this note in the bathroom with a sign, and she had sent a picture. She said, I can't believe this. I opened the door to leave, and there's a penny right in front. She slept in his study. There's a penny on the floor right by the door. And it was a 1986 penny, which was the year I was married. And so that was another one of the weird stories.
I have a friend whose daughter died when she was a child, and she also has kind of a penny thing, and she's collected so many pennies that they just built a new house and they made an entire floor. They lined the whole floor with all of her pennies. They call them Kaylee's pennies, and then they epoxied over them. So when you get more than 23, you can do the same thing.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what it is with dead people and pennies, but I think they should bump it up a little bit.
At least 50-cent pieces. And also 50-cent pieces are so much more uncommon. I feel like
Yeah.
that would get
Well,
me.
pennies are going away, so I don't know.
Do you ever have pennies?
I mean,
how
I
do
do. I have
I don't,
kids, so I got all sorts of crap, Legos,
yeah,
pennies, all of it.
I don't have
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I love that this happened though, Judy, because it's almost a little bit more, it's cooler that you were skeptical. You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't come into it expecting,
I'm still skeptical.
yeah,
It's just that it's happening to me. I had this dream early on. I had this dream where, it wasn't really a dream. I woke up and those eye things you put over your eyes to sleep. I woke up at 5 in the morning and I always have to put them on or I can't fall back asleep because the light comes in. And I got up out of bed, I couldn't find it, moved my dog, couldn't find it, looked under the bed, couldn't find it, went back. I was just like, damn, I have to lie here and try to sleep. And in this kind of dream state, the door opens, my husband comes in, and he's like smirking with his hand behind his back. And he said, you'll never guess what I found. And I said, did you find my eye shades? Like as if I'm having a conversation. It was so real. I could still see it. And he walked over to my side of the bed and he said, I'm not telling. And then he took his hand and he dropped something and I flew up awake. I was like sitting up in bed. I turn on light and I look down and there are my eye shades right where he dropped them.
No.
I love it. I love it
It
so
was
much.
weird. It was so real. I mean, it was so real.
If you could give yourself any advice sitting where you are now to your newly widowed self, what would you say to yourself? She's speechless. We broke Judy.
You broke her.
I think you broke me. I don't have
You
any advice to
guys.
I mean,
Okay,
it,
that's going to be your homework assignment. I want you to think about
okay,
it.
I'll
And
come back.
and yes, the professor is giving you this assignment to think about if there's anything you would tell yourself as we finish up.
This is the anthropology assignment.
And I'm sure there are things I can't
Yeah,
think of.
I caught you off guard.
That was a trick question.
But we do also have another extremely important question that I hope you're prepared for, Mel.
This is the one.
Yeah.
Cheese. Do you like it? Can you eat it?
Okay, so this was the question that probably kept me from saying I wanted to do an interview for the longest time.
So
But
silly.
this is the podcast that got me eating cheese again. No, I'm lactose intolerant. However, everybody talking about cheese really made me want to eat cheese again because I do love cheese. So I learned I can eat cheese with a lot of lactate.
Yeah.
So
Hey.
then this cheese that I really like, one time you guys made fun of a variant of it, and I thought, ooh, now I can never really say the cheese I really like. But
What
no
was
one
it?
Wait,
said it. Can you guess?
Swiss cheese.
Oh,
That was one you made fun of, but
It's because
I
of my dad. It's because my dad would like get a whole brick and eat it. It was so gross.
no, but I like Jarlsberg,
okay.
which is
That's
in the
fine.
Swiss cheesy family.
Oh, did we make fun of that?
No, we just made fun of Swiss cheese.
No,
But
no one's ever mentioned Jarlsberg.
yeah, I like a
Also,
Jarlsberg.
we're idiots.
Yeah.
I like cheddar kind of only, so you can say whatever you want.
I also really like smoked Gouda and Brie, but those are always mentioned, so I figured I'd give Jarlsberg a shout out.
Okay. We love that. Judy, thank you so much for joining us today. And also thank you for just being a supporter of the podcast and being in the Widow Wives Club and just being a good human widow. We really appreciate you. And it's been really fun to talk to you. So thank you.
Thank you guys too, because without you, I think it would have been harder. The advice to my newly widowed self is find the podcast earlier.
Hey,
Aw.
Mel, clip that, stick that on YouTube.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Judy and her story. You can find her in the Widow Wives Club and find out if she's found any more pennies. If you'd like to keep the podcast going, check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
If you'd like to die. If you'd like to die,
Don't.
eat Jarlsberg. No. If you'd like to buy us tacos and put Jarlsberg on the tacos, go to buymeacoffee.com. Yeah, that sounds so bad. /widow we do now.
And we always appreciate a nice rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Judy.
And we're just two young widows and one old friend who's not old. We've just known her for a few years and we're all just trying to figure out widow.
We
Do.
now.
Mel.
Yeah,
We have a major announcement to make.
go for it.
Did you know that right now all plans on Mint Mobile are what?
$15 a month.
Okay, that's truly ridiculous. Do you know how much regular cell phones are?
Yep.
$1 bazillion a month. 15 is less than that.
New customers get 3 months of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month if you sign up right now. And guess what? I use it. I love it. I've used it all over the country, all over the world, and it's great. And if you're wondering about phones, they have those available as well, or you can just port your own number and your current phone over to Mint Mobile. They make it so easy.
So if people are interested in trying out Mint Mobile, how can they go about doing that?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. And you know, it's interesting. When my dad died, we actually put his phone on a Mint Mobile plan because it kept his number going, but it was $15 a month. So there you go. And there's different storage plans, but you might as well just get the unlimited because it's $15 a month.
Absolutely. All right, go try it today.
That's trymintmobile.com/WWDN.